Yo, welcome everybody to TCR, Trinity Competitive Racing, and welcome to round number 6 of 14 here in Season 17 for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in Baku. And we are here for TCR's premier F1 division for the Elite Series. We have 16 drivers here tonight. We are using racing line only, or some drivers preferring the racing line off. It is me, myself, Seafreeze, bringing you guys through tonight's proceedings. We are both live on the YouTube and the Twitch. I encourage you guys to watch on your preferred platform. We had an off week last week, well needed for most drivers, and we returned with the Challenger Series last night, which I do believe was a lot of mixed rainy conditions. If anyone is interested in tuning in, we do have lots of seats open in the Challenger Series. It's our mixed assist entry-level series for TCR, the Challenger Series, Tuesdays, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We encourage you guys, if you know anyone that's looking for a league, to shout them out as we round off Season 17. Not quite yet. We still have lots of racing left. But this is the second game of the game cycle. Second half of the game cycle, I should say. And we got some confirmation on new release dates for the F1 24 game. May 31st, which is kind of just in time because our season will be ending early May. May 14th and 15th at Abu Dhabi. That's round 14 for the Abu Dhabi sprint race. So we end on the 14th and 15th. We have about 2-3 weeks, and then the new game will be out. So the timing of the new game is really exciting. Hopefully we'll get some more information and hopefully brighter days on the new game. And it's getting released earlier and earlier, which I think is a great thing. Returning to the grid tonight is Lawrence, as we are on board with him. First driver to start setting a lap time will be him. He is reserving here tonight. After missing a few rounds, he's back as a reserve, and he's going to be a threat to win this race. See what the benchmark is for the first lap of the day. It's a 140.051, which is pretty handy indeed. Good lap by Lawrence, and that tells me we're getting into the 39s at some point tonight. I will just put a disclaimer out. There's a lot of discussion in the Discord right now, and I think this race is going to be lots of rain. So stick with us. It's going to be, from what I'm hearing, full wet conditions. I don't know if it's going to be changing conditions, but this qualifying session, most drivers will probably be switching to some sort of a wet setup. To make sure they have enough downforce for the race. Baku's always an interesting track to set your car up for, because you obviously have the long straights for most of really the end of Sector 3, the beginning of Sector 1, and all of Sector 1. But then you also have this tight bit that B-Tom's going through right now, where you need a lot of downforce. So most drivers will run lower downforce. Now, if you mix in a little bit of the full wet rain, it's going to be really hard to handle your car in a race distance. I remember, I think it was season... What was it? Season... We did a race, but back when we had the Platinum class at Baku, and it was a full wet race, and I think it may have been season 14 or maybe 15, and it was one of the toughest races. Full wet around Baku is no joke. It is no joke at all, and if we're getting that here tonight, we're gonna have some absolute carnage. And I'm actually happy I'm up in the boot this week. Last week out, or 2 weeks ago, was the... I don't even know where I raced. Where did I race? Wow, I can't even remember where I raced last week. I was on the grid. How do I not know? There goes my memory. I can't believe I can't even remember. Oh, Bahrain. We did have an off week in the middle of it as well, so it gave me a little bit of slack, as F1 Nerd is finishing his lap here. But yeah, Bahrain was a nice race. My first race back in a long time as a reserve, and got a top 5 out of it. And this guy won the last round. Beatom reserving in the Ferrari. He's reserving here tonight as well in the Ferrari. He won at Bahrain, round number 5, and it was a really tight battle towards the end. He had some good battles with Remsley, and I do believe it was Beamer, who was not on the grid tonight. I don't see him. And then you had Bats and myself, kind of towards the end of that train. So you had five drivers come down to the end, and pretty much a DRS train to finish off Bahrain. So it was lots of fun, but a full wet around Baku is not my cup of tea. So I'm happy I'm up here today in the dry commentary booth. Let me go over and see if there were any penalties from last week, just to give you guys some updates. If there's anyone that doesn't know, you can still join our Discord. It's open to anybody, and we post the stewards' decisions so everybody can keep up with that. From last week, it seems like Just Jose got 5 seconds and a penalty point for contact with KD, and Sir Charles received 10 seconds and a penalty point for contact with Raikkonen. So those are the only 2 penalties and incidents from last week. Oh, that's not how you do it, Remsley. I don't know what he was doing there, but I don't know if he messed up and tried to cut the chicane to get back in time, or hopped it and maybe he hopped the curb, but that went terribly wrong. And he is going to start this race P16. Not ideal from a previous race winner in round 4 at Qatar. And we see Julian in the comments. Welcome, welcome. He says the latest annual money grab coming May 31st. Yeah, that's the F124. Yeah, hopefully it's a lot better than previous years. But thanks for tuning in. I know it's late on your end. Kluka goes P7. Whisper just starting his lap. Might have gotten a little bit of slipstream from the AlphaTauri ahead. He goes deep into turn 2. But going over the points here, the Drivers' Championship is Forzan with 97 points, followed by, it's actually Lawrence in the reserve as he goes into the 39s with that lap time. He has 68 points. Beamer, who's not here tonight, is 51 points. He's tied with Professional. Remsley would be in 5th with 46 points, right ahead of his teammate with 43 points, which is GTR Lion. And Beaton, after last week's win with 41 points, puts him 7th as a reserve driver. And just quickly, a little bit of the Constructors team battle. We have the Alfa Romeos of Forzan and Silent, who I don't see Silent here tonight, so he must be napping. They have 134 points over the team of Alpine, which is GTR Lion and Remsley at 89, followed by the Mercedes with 57 points. That's Professional and Jose. I tell you what, there's one Red Bull on the front row, and this other one in third is looking very handy indeed, and FND might actually pull out a better lap time here. And he does, so he picks up another 10. He must have, like I said, we're expecting full rain conditions throughout the race, so I wonder if he kept with a little bit more of a drier setup. Maybe one that's better in quali, because he's right up there with B-Tom, who's just about to set lap time. He's marginally up on his previous best. Last night, the Red Bulls finished 1 and 4. F1 Nerd and Chabar. So we'll see what these two Red Bulls can do here today, as B-Tom just picks up 300ths and he stays 4th. Remsley says he was trying to get back to the pits faster and launch myself over the sausage curb into the wall. Last to first is the only way to make Baku interesting. You are right. And you know what? We actually did have somebody do a last to first many seasons ago. It was a driver by the name of Speedster. It was actually, I think, his debut as well in the Platinum class at the time. And yeah, he went last to first at Baku. And you know what? Baku, out of all the tracks you could go last to first on, Baku is probably one that could happen, just because of all the carnage and safety cars that we're going to expect here tonight. And especially with the rainy conditions, we're definitely going to have ups and downs throughout the race, even from the drivers up at the front. I expect lots of ups and downs. We got 2 minutes left in quali. A lot of people still in the pits. I don't know if they're really going to make it back out in time for their final runs. We'll see. Lawrence leading out. We got Whisper following out behind him. It's a long lap, so we'll see if they can. I think these drivers will be alright, but if anyone's coming behind this Aston Martin, who's this, Sir Charles? Still in the pits. Rockstar just coming out. They're going to have a tough time finishing these laps. Some drivers kind of messed up the timing. B-Tom's retired, so he's not going to do any better than 4th. Chabar says, look at Red Bull go, another 1-4 incoming, and I just mentioned that. Red Bull looks quick in qualifying. Kyle says, I guess I can be happy I hurt my back because screw wet weather racing at Baku. And I think that's Raikkonen. At least the only good thing is, since you, Raikkonen, if you didn't actually attend the quali in the race, this won't technically count as a race start, so you won't have a DNF towards your name. So that's good. Well, let's see if we can... Forzan will be the first to start his outlap, and then we'll kind of go on backwards as the session continues on. Prattis, welcome. Good to see you out there. Hope you're doing good. He says, who's going to win today, Freeze? Oof. That's a tough one. I think it's been a few races. I think Forzan will could possibly get it done. He's going purple right now, 2/10. It's going to be rough with the full wet conditions. If it's going to be a full 50% full wet race, I mean, a small lockup, you know, these guys could be into the wall right here, so easy. Clip of a wing. The castle section is going to be rough. This next corner coming up, very easy to lock up in the rain as well. This next braking zone, you're just going straight towards a wall. The entire braking zone, you're just creeping. So, but I think Forzan will get it done. I think he might have the edge over B-Tom pace-wise. Obviously, Forzan's full-time, B-Tom's kind of coming in on that part-time basis. Lawrence coming in as a reserve, but if we saw back at, what was it, Mexico, did we see rain early the opening round, possibly? Or there was one round, Forzan had the pace advantage over him, so we'll see. Forzan goes provisional. We'll see what the rest can do. Whisper finishing his lap, goes P3. Nice lap from him. In the McLaren, Lawrence will not do any better. We'll see what Jose is capable of. Oh, Kyle is Katie. Oh, alright, my apologies, Well, hope your back is better. I did not know that you had an injury there. And that's qualifying over. Everybody, that ended quickly. Professional says he's going to swim to the win. Make sure you got your floaties on. Alright, so there you have it. Forzan over Lawrence. Whisper, Jose, and Kluka. Nice reserve from him. F&D still solid quali. Gets ahead of a 5-time Platinum class champion in 6th. B-Tom is 7th. GTR Lion and Professional. That's lots of experience right there. Plus a silver champ of Camden. That's 8, 9, and 10. And the rest. I'm interested to see what Remsley could do. That's what I'm circling in this race. Sometimes when you start out back and you have a tough race like this, sometimes you have a different mentality, and a last to first is actually very possible. Prada says the benefit of some using Racing Line will be noticeable at the start. Definitely. Well said. Usually it takes around, for me, I know I could speak from my experience, it usually takes me about 10 laps or so to get comfortable with the conditions to where I can start pushing. The first few laps, everyone is very tentative, and after each lap, that goes by, then you start to notice the gaps. The quick drivers will try to find the time. They'll push the limits a little bit more, and the other drivers won't push as much. And then, because we're at Baku, the walls are really close. You go over that line just a little bit, you can make an error. You're going to be, straight into the wall. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I would stay tuned in because I believe it's 26 laps around Baku in full wet conditions. This is going to be good. Alright, it is the formation lap, and it is time for predictions. You could really go with anybody. You could really roll the dice here tonight, given the conditions. Top 3 in the comments if you want to play along. I'm actually going to stick with Forzan for the win. And I do like Lawrence in second. I think these two are really experienced. And even in these conditions, I think that it'll still stay 1-2. But P3, I'm going to open the door up. I think I really like Remsley. I think he could do it. I think maybe not last to first quite, but I could see a podium from him. He won back at Qatar. And last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, last round at Bahrain was, battling with the leaders for another win. There's 2 corners, and I mentioned it in qualifying that you kind of have to watch out for, and that is the castle section right here. And then the other one that I'd point out is this one that coming up here if we're on board with professional. Very easy to lock up, and you're pretty much going straight to a wall. So you got to make sure you are a little bit conservative. Those 2 corners I would kind of play it a little safe and kind of work up the pace from there. But those are your risk corners. The rest is you can kind of get away with. You can definitely push through turns 1, 2, 3. A lot more of the lap. You have a little bit more leeway. Given it being a full wet race, the drivers do not have to pit technically. They can go to the end of the race. They don't have to pit. But I think at some point, I'd say they'd want to switch over to another full set of wet tires, just for that extra grip. Well, that is, look at the angle Lawrence has. Oh, wow. That's Max Verstappen style for sure. He's going straight to Forzan to take over this lead. And you know what? Because of how poorly the camera is, we'll go on board with Lawrence to start round 6 of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in the Elite Series. Let's see who can lead into turn 1. It's going to be Lawrence. Forzan gets tapped by the McLaren of Whisper. He's going to lose out to Jose. He'll have to slot in line for P3 as everyone comes through here. B-Tom is around. B-Tom, last week's winner, is around. He got hit by somebody. I'm not too sure who. Giggle's having some issues as well. There's another turn 3. Very tight, 90-degree left-hander. Oh, who's this again? Oh, it's going to be Giggle into the wall. He'll need a new front wing. So both Ferraris out in the rear. As everybody else, man, this looks tough conditions out there. Camden Luca gaining some positions. He's right behind his brother for 6th. Just making sure everybody gets through here all right. Oh, Giggle. Giggle's having some issues on this opening lap. Let's just make sure he gets through this one all right. Oh, as the rear of the car really going around on him almost. As Lawrence already on the opening lap, 2 seconds he's almost going to gain from Jose. Big lift from Forzan. I think Jose might have tapped the wall ahead. There's a position change here. GT gets Camden Luca. As Raikkonen's out of the race. And a VSC is deployed, so first one out is the Haas of Raikkonen. Coming through here is flat in the dry. It is not in full wet conditions, and there it is. That's going to help F1 Nerd to get himself a new front wing, as does Giggle. Lawrence had a really good start. He angled his car directly towards Forzan, got a great launch, and already picked up such a big gap. Now we just got to watch out. Oh, it turned into a safety car. Okay. So we got a full course safety car. First one of the day. Originally was a VSC and it turned into a full course safety car. Now I will say, today the safety cars, you're not really going to gain much from a safety car. If it's the same conditions all throughout, there's no reason to pit right now, because you don't need to pit to satisfy one. You don't have to pit at all in this race. The only time it'll really come a factor is maybe midway through the race, if you want, fresher rubber to get you to the end. But it's not going to be much advantage like it would in a regular dry race, depending on strategy. But it does help those who maybe get wing damage or have problems. So this helps F1 Nerd and Giggle get back to the end of the line. I'd love to see a replay of what happened with B-Tom. I don't know who he got hit by. As Giggle gets a drive through. That does not help his cause at all. Kluka comes into the pits. Remsley coming out of the pits as well. Even though there's a safety car, that does not mean it's time to. It's technically a rest period for the drivers, but also not, because you're still driving around Baku. You don't want to make a mistake hitting a wall, carelessly. So you still have to stay focused here. These aren't push laps by any means, obviously, but it's important not to drift your mind away. It's very easy with the spray of the drivers behind and the little slack in the chain, so to speak. It could be very easy to hit the back of another driver or a lockup. You're still in full wet conditions. I thought GT was going to pit there. This might be the last lap, and it should come in by the end of this lap here. Regardless. See where we are next week. Round 7. We should have some more European tracks coming up. Next week we go to Britain for Silverstone. It's supposed to be a 100% race for the Elite Series. So that should be a lot of fun. It'll be a regular, probably 50% race for the Challenger Series. For a lot of people, that safety car kind of acts as, kind of gets everybody's nerves under control. Full wet conditions for the first time of the night for many of them. You got one full lap under the full wet conditions at full push mode. Then you had a few at, under safety car. So, are we going an extra lap? Oh wow, we're going an extra lap. I guess we're waiting for Giggle here to catch back up. So they'll get another lap under full wet, under the safety car, and that could kind of help a lot of drivers just to kind of get their foot in, to get that mindset right, get those nerves calmed down. By the time we get going, it'll be lap 6 of 26. And hopefully the drivers, they start getting into that rhythm. And given the amount of laps spent under safety car, we had 4 laps under safety car, you're not really taking much wear off these tires. So if we get more safety cars, it's really just going to come down to a track position track position race here tonight. Because if we get a few running laps under green and then a safety car for 3 to 4 laps, and then kind of repeat that all race long, you won't really need to pit. So all Lawrence really has to do is make sure his tires are in good temperature window, and when the safety car comes in, just get a good launch. And he doesn't even need to push it that much, because it's hard to overtake in the full wet to begin with. And he could probably expect, oh, we have 15 runners still left, you know, there could be another safety car. So all he has to really do is think, oh, I might only have to push for 1 to 3 laps, and then we might get another one. That, you know, I could see that race going this way. But we'll see. Safety car's in this lap. We are going to get back going after 4 laps under the safety car, which Raikkonen brought out through this corner right here. Crashed out on the right-hand side. Lawrence has a beautiful helmet. A little props to him. Let's see when he decides to go. There it is. You can't overtake before the start-finish line, so there'll be single file until then. I think GT passed F and D. He might have timed that right, but oh, who's around? It's GT. Oh, wow. Uncharacteristic mistake by the Lion. I don't know if he got helped around, but he goes back to 15th. As the Aston Martins fight for 12th and 13th. B-Tom looking on nerd. He gets it slowed down in time. Up front, we got Jose. He got passed by Forzan and Whisper. And we have another safety car. That's Rockstar out. I didn't really see where that was, but somewhere in Sector 1. And now we wait. And Prada says in the comments the safety car is useless. And here's my thoughts on this. I agree. I'd say that safety car, like if you think of the safety car's purpose, right, in real life, it's for safety reasons, obviously. If a car crashes on track, they put the safety car out to neutralize the field, put them all behind a queue, so all the cars are at one specific location on the track, so they could send marshals and other equipment out on track to receive a specific car. So they do that for safety reasons. They clean up debris, they retrieve the car, they put it outside the track, stuff like that. If they put marshals out, or if a driver needs to get retrieved, they have to leave the track. That makes sense. In the video game, there's no need for a safety car because it's a game. So there's really no safety risk. Although, it would be cool if actual debris on track caused punctures. If you had a front wing lying on the track and you run over it, it could cause damage to your own front wing or tire. Or if a car DNFs, it doesn't just ghost, it stays there. And you risk running back into it. Obviously there's no need to retrieve drivers or marshals from the track and that sort of thing. But if the damage actually did stuff, I could see why you would want a safety car to come out. Because then, let's say for example Rockstar just crashed out. He's set out on track, but in this present game, that doesn't really do anything for us. Because if Rockstar crashes out, if you run over debris or if the car gets ghosted, it gets removed without a safety car, it doesn't really do anything. But if the car is just, you know, stood there on track and the debris can cause more damage, then it makes sense to have a safety car or a VSC. But in the game, the safety cars are kind of useless because that isn't really a factor. So that's kind of my view on it. Although I do like safety cars as well, because it does give a chance for other drivers, if you have an issue, to catch back up. So that drivers just don't, you know, if they have an incident on lap 1, they don't just leave. And we run the reduced safety car as well. But on a track like this, when you crash out, a car is on the track. So, it's more vulnerable to trigger a safety car. I guess the conditions also make it more vulnerable as well. But, yeah, I mean, I think the entire race so far, we had a lap and a half of green flag racing, so not ideal in a competitive standpoint. Yeah, Jose pitted, let's see where he came out, 11th. He might have gotten some damage too, possibly. He was running second, then got overtaken by Forzan and Whisper. But he does have 6-7 laps, about 6-7 laps fresher tires than everyone else in front of him. GT is pitting now. McGiggle still has the drive-through penalty. You have to serve the drive-through penalty under green flag conditions, and we didn't really get a green flag run yet for him to serve that. So far the two DNFs from Rockstar and Raikkonen, it seems to be both driver inflicted. It wasn't caused by anybody else, from what I'm gathering, although I'm not 100% certain on that. But other than that, out of the lap and a half of green flag running that we did have, the racing's been clean. I just think the drivers weren't prepared to go full wet racing around Baku. So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of, not a lot, I mean we only had two, the two crash outs. Which could have easily happened in the dry. So this is just a really, full wet around Baku is probably one of the toughest races you can put yourself in my opinion. What other tracks would be harder than Baku full wet? Some could maybe say Monaco, but again, you're going at a lot slower speeds around a slower track, so you might just bump your front wing. Here you have a lot higher speeds, bigger, harder braking zones. This track's low and high downforce dependent, although most drivers run more towards low. But I wonder, Singapore, maybe the old layout would be a little bit hard, but now they got rid of that chicane and they cleaned up Sector 3. That's not so bad. If it ever rained in Jeddah, that could be a difficult one. Although, I don't think we'd actually see that. Charles says, how are y'all enjoying the pacing? The pacing's good. I think, who's got the fastest lap so far? Let's see if we can. It is a 2-minute, 4-second, and 5:93 by Lawrence. I'm not bored yet. I'm having fun. Man, Lawrence tapped the wall there. But we're going to get back going racing, hopefully, for at least a lap. Trying to time it right as Whisper. And there you go. Green flag going again. Camden up to 4th as well. Good drive so far from the Haas. Deep under the brakes, he locks it. Oh, and he's going to get spun by F&D, and they're both going to go around. A little bit of a commentator's curse there. Sir Charles getting out of the way of everybody. Is his wing all right? I'm not too sure about that. Nope, no wing for Charles. F&D tapped with Camden. And they both went around. Look at these two. B-Tom and Jose. Oh, rear locking by Jose. Hits the curb. Leaves enough room. And B-Tom will get the position. And look at these two. The AlphaTauris of Kluka and F1 Nerd. They all sorted out. Single file, school bus style. I have a feeling this corner is going to be... something's going to happen here. Oh, yeah. Good save. But, man, B-Tom almost into the wall. Good save, but, man, you saw that rear lock. And Professional closing in on Whisper. He's used the battery. I think he should dump it here. Get it if you can, but look at Whisper. Oh, who's this on the right? Remsley. How's he up to 3rd? Oh, he goes deep, is Professional. He's got Kluka on the inside. Up ahead, who's this? Forzan. Forzan's getting overtaken by Remsley. Forzan, big issue. Remsley up to 2nd. Championship leader having a little bit of an issue. He's lost some pace here. Professionals into 4th. F1 Nerd. Jose. Kluka. He's got B-Tom. And he's going to send it. Oh, wow. That is ballsy. But I guess if you're a 5-time champ, you can pretty much do what you want. Put the pressure on the youngins. Good move. Kluk is definitely struggling here. He's almost halfway down the straight and he's not even full throttle. That's a lot of wheel spin. Here's a good aerial coverage. Here's Jose. He's going to get a nice run on Nerd. Nerd is closing in on Professional ahead. It's Mercedes, and Mercedes got to slow it down. Oh, almost into the back of his teammate, but he gets F1 Nerd into turn 1. Oh, Kluka rear locking again. Camden Luca. Back up here, Jose gets his teammate into turn 3. So after some issues, these are also with these fresher tires, so this is actually doing him wonders right now. He's got the freshest tires out of everyone around him. We got a yellow. Is that Lawrence? That's Lawrence! Oh, wow! The race leader crashes into turn... Was that 15 or 16? And one of the corners I highlighted as the risk corners, he probably locked up, hit the wall. Oh, and he took out Nerd there. Oh, wow. He had a 6-second gap. And one little tiny error cost him the race lead and possibly a penalty, and he's definitely going to have to pit here, get some new tires and a wing. He's lucky he's still moving. But I'm sure he cannot be happy with that. He had a nice cushion out in front, but I was saying earlier, even the best drivers can have some issues. As we have him going on to the intermediates. So it does seem like the inners are coming around. But he also had a wing change. So will everybody else change onto the inters, or the wet's the way to go? Remsley, after starting P16 on the grid, finds himself in a legit P1 net 1 position. And I'll say this, Remsley he stepped up to the plate. He got his first win in the series, round 4. He was competing at Bahrain towards the front. He definitely has the pace in the wet, full wet around Baku. He's head of the championship leader right now with Forzan. I'd kind of circle him as kind of a championship threat. Oh, there's Sir Charles. We caught that just barely. And that's going to bring out a VSC. No wing on that Aston Martin. That was a misclip too, Charles. I still caught you on tape. Forzan's going to take advantage here, as does Jose. I think these drivers, they're going to go in the inners now. GT's pitting. There we go. So Remsley stayed out. And everyone else is coming in. Yeah, Prattis, you had a nice prediction. I was close too, but Lawrence kind of messed us up a little bit. As Whispers retired. Did he retire in the pits, or did he crash out in the pit entrance? I am not too sure. I think he might have crashed out, because there's some debris over there. So Lawrence will kind of restart 7th, and it could be a net P3 if you take off the wet runners. Although some did pit and they put on new fresh wet tires. So that's Jose and B-Tom. They did come into the pits, but instead of putting the intermediates on, they put on the full wet. We could just be going through a small condition change here to where it could be intermediate weather. But as we get closer to the end of the race, the full wets might come back to an advantage. As we have a full safety car deployed, so that's going to hurt Remsley. That gap is going to go away. I think he might want to pit here, as we have a drive-through for Charles. His day gets worse. I think if you're Remsley, you might want to pit here. At least get fresher wet tires, because right now he's at a big disadvantage. And he will do that, so good call. Oh, almost tapped the wall there. And GT with the penalty. Wow. Very uncharacteristic again by him. We saw a spin from him earlier in turn 1, and now a drive-through penalty. Oh, and he's slowing down a... Does he have another... He might... You gotta watch out, you might get 2. So we're seeing mistakes even by some of the most experienced and quickest. From GT, from Lawrence. B-Tom even earlier on in the race. On the opening lap. Had some issues. It's going to be another few laps until we get going again, because we have a little bit of field spread going on. We got to wait for Charles to catch back up, and we have 2 drivers with drive-through penalties. So that's going to take GT and Charles out of it, unless we get another safety car later on in this race, which is very likely. But everybody's relatively on equal tires. So everyone's got about the same amount of grip to finish this race. The only question mark is Jose and B-Tom. I think right now the better tires, the green Inters. But how will it be towards the end of the race? It might not even matter too much if we keep getting safety cars you know, the inners of Forzan and Remsley might be able to hold them off if it does go full wet conditions towards the end of the race. They might not. If we have a 1 or 2 lap shootout at the end of this race, they could maybe hang on if that were to happen. But I'd say pretty much anyone could still win this race. I'd say definitely the top 6 looks strong, top 7 possibly. Professional with an issue under the safety car, and I mentioned that earlier. Even under safety car, you have to be on it. Who's this? B-Tom's in the wall. B-Tom hit the wall both. Man, Professional and B-Tom. That's a big error by 2 very experienced, and he might do it again. Oh wow. That tells me those tires are not up to temperature. Those are cold, wet tires with no heat in them at all. And he threw away a lot of track position there. So did Professional. They're now 8th and 9th. I really cannot believe that. I mean, I'm telling you, these are some of the trickiest conditions that you'll have on an F1 game. Full wet intermediates around Baku. You know, we saw mistakes by a lot of drivers, and even under safety car, B-Tom and Professional both locking up, going deep, hitting the wall. I wonder if they got damage. B-Tom looks okay. Let's just check Professional here. See if we get a glimpse. He looks okay. I mean, they might have a small amount of damage, but all is fair. So wow, that really does shake things up. Forzan will get us back going. Never around 10 laps to go. If I'm Forzan, I'm waiting to the start-finish line. I do not want to go right here. I kind of want to wait, but he's going to go now, which is a little earlier than expected. Remsley's going to get a nice launch. He's going to go around the outside. Forzan more defensive. Jose deep onto the brakes. Almost hits Remsley. Nerd and Lawrence going side by side. What does Lawrence do around the outside? Well, they leave him the room. It's going to be a drag race. It's Forzan, Remsley, Jose, Nerd defending from Lawrence. He hangs on. Trouble in the back. That's Camden. He's going to need another front wing. Take that off the Haas salary budget. B-Tom almost looked for another move in the same corner he did that earlier on Kluka. Unsuccessful this go around. See, Lawrence is very close. Does he? Oh wow! He's just putting the pressure on. I don't think he was actually looking for a move there. And F&D. I think he got a little wheel spin off the exit of the corner, allows B-Tom to take the position. Lawrence should be able to get F1 Nerd here. Under braking. Nerd, actually very impressive. Lawrence is going to have to work here to get these positions. He was out front leading, gaining. He's not in clean air anymore. He's going to have to do it the hard way. Let's see if he gets a nice run to turn 3. He's going to try to look again. He's still not there. He's just need a little bit more. Oh, almost hits the inside wall. Basically pushing him through this section. Oh, he hits the wall again, just a tap of the wall. And here we go, nice exit. Oh, gets the over counter steer just a bit. Has to a little bit of lift mid corner. I didn't think it'd be this difficult for him to get past. Oh, we have an incident here. FND's around again. There's a wing right there. There we go. Lawrence is able to get him on the straightaway now. Moves up to P4 if he could hold it. Nice move from him. He's up to 4th. Good defense by F1 Nerd. A little props to him. Few drivers pitting. That's Charles Kluka and assumably FND. But he continues on actually. He was able to get past GTR. Back up front, it's Forzan, Remsley, Jose. As we start closing in towards the remaining few laps here, the safety car window is still open, so we still have a chance of another safety car if an incident were to happen. We want to get to that lap 23-24 for us to go all the way to the end. Now, all race, you could have just been cruising around, but these are the laps you really want to push here, because if you're Remsley, if it stays green to the end, you got to push now to try and close that gap. If a safety car comes out, you know, then you have another opportunity, but you don't want that gap to be too big. So the first 20 laps or so, you could pretty much just be cruising around, not taking many risks, just gathering intel. The real push laps are right now. I guess more specifically towards the drivers up at the front. If you're in a nice comfortable position that you like the points of, you don't really need to be pushing. But for Remsley, if he wants that race win, which he closed in a little bit here, he's 1.2 now. Lawrence, he still thinks he has a shot at the win. He just has to get past Jose. Oh, drifting is Jose. He's going to have a poor exit here. Does he get to the inside? Yes, he does. Nice. Oh, that is tough through there. Both drivers having the lift. Lawrence, nice position. Oh, Jose taps the back of him. I think those wet tires are not ideal. Big moment. Another big save by B-Tom. Gets P5, but F1 Nerd might come back around the outside here. Under braking. Oh! He gets it slowed down just in time, but Nerd gets the over-under on him. Nice move by F1 Nerd, man. He's having some great battles out with Lawrence and B-Tom. That's pretty cool to see. Just like that, a gap opened up between the two. Second and a half. I think B-Tom used everything he had with those wet tires, but those inners, F1 Nerd has that grip advantage. Yellow. It's gonna be F&D. Again, same corner. Goes deep. Kluka kind of gave up on that overtake there. It was weird. He used a lot of battery to get close and then kind of let off. He's back in these corners up nice. He's getting good apexes though. Whoa. The gap out in front is pulled away. Forzan in those last two laps really did a number. He's up towards 3 seconds over Remsley. And Kluka gets F&D here. then it's just a matter of time for Remsley. I think at this stage, you still try to put in good laps, and you kind of wait for that, because we might have a safety car here. It's right on that last opportunity. If we were to get one, oh wow. And you know what? FND is the king of the castle. The first one tonight. He crashed out in the castle section. And surprisingly not a safety car, so we're going to probably end up going green to the end. I thought there was a slight chance we might see one, but it might be a little too late for that to happen. Gap's now down to 1.9. Let's see if Remsley has a little bit of a run in him. In these conditions, it's really cat and mouse. Forzan can open up a gap, and then he can say, alright, I don't need to push anymore. I'll just kind of be conservative. And Remsley sees that, and he starts to move. He starts to push in, close that gap. Oh, lockup from Forzan. Look at it now, 1.5, 1.4. They both have a lot of battery. I mean, that's not going to be an issue. You're going to dump it down the straight. He'll be able to recover it. In this position, I always prefer track position. But I always like to hunt rather than be the hunted. B-Tom. Whoa! Almost pushing Nerd. Does he get the position on him now to get a top 5? He doesn't have the straight line speed. Got 3 laps left in this thing. He's good through the corners, but on these straightaways, Nerd's just quick. They're closing in on Jose as well. That's from P4. There's just really nowhere to get by through the corners. So we'll kind of monitor that as we go around. Forzan, let's just kind of go on board. Let's see how much he's pushing here. So really under control for the most part. He's got 2 more laps that puts a little bit of pressure on Forzan to make a mistake. He's going to need a mistake from Forzan if he wants to win this thing. The gap does fluctuate, but he needs a big error. He closes so much on this straight. Got 2 laps to go. Yellow, that's gonna be B-Tom. Probably locked up, went a little deep. He's gonna stay in 6th though, but that gap between Nerd and himself really opened up. Forzan Dewey's got about he's gonna closing in on 1 lap left. Out of everyone, he's pretty much been mistake-free. He had a little issue early on in the race. He lost a position. Other than that, he's been pretty good, as is Remsley. I mean, Remsley started P16. And I think what caused him troubles was when everyone else pitted, he stayed out. He should have probably pitted, and he could have kept his track position. He lost the track position, wasn't able to get that back ever. Oh, little lockup. I mean, I'm on board with Forzan. You could just hear the tires screeching. Got 2 more risky corners coming up. Here's the first one. Man, he gets so close to these walls. And the next risky corner is coming on up. This big braking zone downhill. We saw a lot of issues here today, including Lawrence, who was leading the race, and pretty much he cost himself a possible chance at the win. Forzan gets through there fine and dandy. And Forzan is going to cross the line and win from pole position and the fastest lap. He gets the Grand Slam here tonight, and he wins here for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, round number 6, and extends his championship lead here in the Elite Series. Great drive by him. Remsley, maybe the driver of the day in my book, 16th to 2nd. He can't be too upset with that. Lawrence might be a little upset with himself. He was crashed leading the race, cost himself a possible race win after reserving here tonight. Jose, good drive by him. He'll finish 4th. Nerd, reserve, Challenger reserve. He's a Challenger Series driver, reserving here tonight, and great performance, battling with some of the likes of Lawrence and Beaton. Speaking of Beaton, he's 6th after having issues under safety car, as well as professional. GT having some issues as well, getting a drive-through penalty, as does Sir Charles. Giggle got another drive-through actually on the opening laps. He was able to finish inside and get himself a point with no front wing. Camden just misses out on the points. He's finishing ahead of his brother to be Luke 11th and 12th. Oops. All right. Those are the standings. Kind of already went over them. We're going to start the post-race interviews real quick. If anyone has any questions for the top three, leave them in the comments below. I got the YouTube side of things up. Otherwise, we'll get going here. We will start with P number 3 in the Red Bull of Lawrence, reserving here tonight. Kind of a surprise appearance. Cool to see you out on the grid, battling out with Forzan once again. P3, another podium in the books. Tricky conditions here tonight. Firstly, how'd you get on with those conditions out there? Full wet around Baku, I think is maybe one of the trickiest combinations that could happen.
Absolutely no. We get so little grip in the dry to begin with, and throw us out on the wet. We might as well be racing in sailboats for truth. But or tight, or maybe we're in cruise ships. You never know. But yeah, no, there's some stuff I did wrong out there. I think setup wise, a little bit some stuff I could do better too. But first quarter of the race, we just were under safety car. It was at least enough to kind of get cider laps and get a sense of what we were working with. And then I think it was like lap 10. I'm trying to pull it up in my recording right now. I just had the dumbest, silliest little spin into, what was that, T16? High curb into sector 2, left-hander. Yep. I just front locked, then rear locked, and then did the slowest, dumbest spin to the inside. I tried to floor it in first gear to flick it around. It went straight. Did the opposite of what I expected it, and I hit the wall. So it was a silly error for me. Then we had the safety car to go to the Inter, and made a couple decent overtakes, and had a moment again at T16, and this time it rear locked, front locked, and I didn't want to spin it into the inside wall, so I tried to hold it high, and it bounced off the outside wall, gave myself more damage at the end. At that point, I just had to bring it home, get the P3, and well done to Edvin and Remsley. They kept it under control better than I did, so well done to them.
When you think of, I think when of Baku, especially in the wet conditions, that corner and also Castle to be the two trickiest, but especially turn 16 because you're kind of going downhill, easy to lock, easy to spin, and then also you're approaching a wall the entire time. What's kind of that? Did you think? What's your mindset? Because you did have a nice, I think, around 6-second gap. You said it was just a little silly spin. Is it loss of concentration, or is it just an error, or because it's so easy to put a foot wrong there in the dry, even maximizing that corner. What's the mindset, just for some to think of?
I think for me, it was genuine error. Of course, I'm not gonna say, oh, it's something else. It's not me. I'm definitely not blameless for true. I'm just I'm watching it back right now as I'm speaking. I'm just watching it through. I just have a little front lock, then the rear steps around at about 20% brake, and it didn't feel like loss of concentration. It was just genuine error trying to, I don't know. I could have avoided that for sure, because it was just a silly mistake. I don't think it was concentration. I don't think it was setup. I think it was just me not managing it as well as I should have, and that's on me in the end. If that answers your question, I hope.
Yeah. And the last one I have is obviously, you winning in this series before, but what do you think of the kind of the entire grid here tonight? I mean, I do believe this is probably the trickiest combination in F1 the games that we race on, and for the most part, a lot of it was just individual errors, but it could have been a lot worse also. So I don't know, kind of. What do you think about that?
I mean, for just kind of the wet in Baku, I have to say, as a Checo fan, I have to say I love the Baku circuit because, I mean, obvious reasons, but I think in the wet, that's just, you put us on a low grip surface, you put us on full wet conditions, and you're just trying to manage as best you can. You're not necessarily racing the cars around you, you're racing the track. Yeah. You're racing yourself, you're racing the track. I think that's the way to describe it, and that's kind of the mentality I took even in the dry a bit, in truth. And like I said, in the wet, it's just, you're racing yourself, and I think for me personally, I just kind of overstepped that a bit in my 2 errors, and like I said, I hope that answers your question. But that's kind of that's kind of the mentality I kind of took into it. If that means anything.
Absolutely. Well, good podium. It was nice seeing you out there. Hopefully, we see you a few more times this season. And yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We will move on to the Alpine driver, starting P16. Almost did a last to first challenge, and you know what? I think, and let me know if you agree, you could have possibly won if you pitted when everyone else did to keep your track position.
No, I don't agree. Forzan
Really?
had
Okay.
good pace on the inters, so I don't think I would have caught him or been able to keep the position. Maybe if it was full wet still, so I definitely had a bit better pace on that, but no, probably not on the inters.
Yeah, it would have been interesting because you were when everyone else pitted, because Lawrence was the first to go onto the inters, but he lost time because he had to change his wing, and then the VSC came out, so everybody else gained time there as well. You stood out an extra lap, but if you came in, I don't know, I think you might have still kept the track position, and then it would have just been a different, maybe the same outcome, but it would have just been a different storyline, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I thought you did really well through the conditions. But any tricky moments? I didn't really see any issues on your end. It seemed like you and Forzan were probably the only two that really didn't make too many big errors.
Yeah, no big moments, but I mean, it would have been nice to get some wet practice in before this, because out of a lot of the corners I was getting some wheel spin, and then that adds up over the course of a stint. And I was like, my rears were pretty worn at the end. I think if I would have just played it a bit more safe at the beginning, I might have had a bit more pace. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and this is pretty much three weeks in a row. I'm not the best at remembering the first few rounds, but you've been in the conversation and close for the race victory. You know, the last 3 weeks and more. What are we feeling as we go through this season? I think the pace is pretty there. I would say. Even in this tricky conditions, I thought you were pretty impressive. But how do we feel moving forward?
Honestly, I really like the rest of the tracks. This was probably this and Monza are my least favorite tracks on the game. And also like Mexico I don't really like, so the beginning of the season didn't enjoy the tracks too much, but the rest look really good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Well, congratulations. Anything else you needed to mention, or?
Not really. Just congrats to Forzan for the win and good race to Lawrence.
Sweet. Well, there you have it. Remsley for P2, and we'll see him next week for Britain, which is scheduled for a 100% race. And we will go to the man of the hour in the Alfa Romeo. He extends his championship lead. It is Forzan with the race win, Grand Slam, pole position, and the fastest lap in these tricky conditions. You were my race winner, my pick here tonight. Congratulations. And also, I don't think you did many steps wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, the first misstep of the night was probably me not realizing that we was starting an hour early.
Oh, that is true.
I hadn't touched the game for like 1.5 weeks before this, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get on, have practice for an hour, and then I'll be fine. And then I got on, and then Lawrence tells me, yeah, no, we start in 10 minutes, and I was like, wait, what?
Yep, daylight savings for you. Actually, I think Raikkonen as well had the same issue. He thought it was an hour difference as well.
Yeah, so I think I had, like, before the race, literally like 8-9 laps or something. so not very well prepared at all. But this is a track I enjoy, so I was quite confident that I would find my groove pretty quickly. And I was praying for rain, so my wish came true. But yeah, no. Other than that, few missteps. I locked up my rears a few times. One big time when I was trying to overtake Lawrence. I braked a little bit too late, and I felt that if I had kept braking like I did, I would hit Lawrence. So I hit the brake a lot more, and felt that I'd rather spin myself than crash into Lawrence. So yeah, I just took the L there, you know.
Hey, can I hop in for 1 second here? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought I squeezed Edvin. I had a moment with Jose as well. I think they tried to outbrake me each time, and I thought I'd squeezed them, but I haven't seen it back yet. I don't know if I did or didn't in either of those cases, but that's what I thought as being on the car on the outside, especially with Forzen here. Sorry, just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like I said, I didn't feel like you squeezed me, so no problem. But yeah, other than that, fun race. Really had to concentrate. Very easy track to make a big mistake on, especially in the wets, considering like you pretty much can't even touch your brake pedal or your throttle for that matter. So yeah, for sure, it's. And it was fun coming back as well. I was very bummed out about me missing Bahrain, but like I had other stuff going on, so I couldn't make the race, and I hadn't
Plus
slept.
the week off too, so it's been a little while since you raced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good to get F1 rust off a little bit.
Well, jumping into a full wet at Azerbaijan is one way to get the rust off. That's for sure. But
yeah.
Very good job, well done. Congrats on the win. But I think that's gonna do it for the post-race interviews. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and share it out. Next week we are at Britain, and it is a scheduled 100% race for the Elite Series. If you want to find out more about TCR, check the description. We have our website. Join our Discord, where we are the most active at Trinity Racing on all socials. Podcast should come back relatively soon. And if you're looking for an iRacing IndyCar series, TCR is going to do that. So sign up and get on the grid. We start April 11th, intended. For our first little season there. After trying some Super Formula, we're switching to some IndyCar to hopefully have some better attendance and whatnot. But other than that, it's been a pleasure. Sea Freeze to everybody back at TCR. Hope everyone has a good night.